Well, we're all set for game number 40 and game number 2 of this 2-game road trip as we bring in Jack Michaels. You can hear him tonight on 880 Ched alongside Bob Stauffer in the broadcast booth. And when you're calling the game tonight, you'll also be calling some new look lines for the Edmonton Oilers as Jack Roslovic will be pivoting the third line. He's in between Trent Frederick and Matthias Janmark. Your initial thoughts on the shakeup in the bottom six?
Well, first off, it means Matt Savoy goes back up on a wing with Leon Draisaitl. So, I think Draisaitl, quite frankly, had triggered some offense in Matt Savoy. There was a period where I think Savoy had 5 goals in an 8-game stretch, and I think, being reunited with Podkolzin and Draisaitl, opportunity to get him going. Jack Roslovic is a guy who, I think they're hoping to trigger some offense in the bottom six, because right now that's an area of concern for the Edmonton Oilers if they have one. I mean, remember, Edmonton's 8-3-1 in their last 12. So this is a team playing reasonably good hockey right now, matched up with one that's kind of heading in the other direction. Winnipeg's dropped 5 straight. Yeah. And since a 9-3 start, the Jets have just 6 wins in their last 24. So they're a desperate hockey club that's not scoring a great deal in their own right. And Edmonton is in a bit of a tinkering mode, again, trying to get that bottom six going. Curtis Lazar will be in the lineup tonight, on a wing with Adam Henrique and Max Jones. So the big news is, it doesn't look like Andrew Mangiapane's going to play tonight. That's a major shakeup in Edmonton's bottom six, and also a message, I think, that with guys like Kasperi Kapanen soon to return as well, you better be going, because there's now competition to stay in this lineup now that Edmonton's winning games on a regular basis and starting to get healthy.
Yeah, Jack Roslovic, of course, had that one stretch where he had 17 points in 16 games, and he is a former draft pick of the Winnipeg Jets back in 2015, a first rounder, so a little extra motivation for number 28 here tonight. Now, there's always motivation for Calvin Pickard. He always says, I treat every start like it's my last, because it very well could be. He's very honest in his assessments and in his looking ahead to his start, I should say, but for Calvin Pickard, this is an important start because it's probably his last one in the year 2025. It's been an up and down year for number 30. He looks to begin 2026 on a high note.
Yeah, and he hasn't got much help. When Calvin Pickard starts, especially early in the season, the Oilers played exceptionally loose defense in front of him. And Chris Knobloch has noted that look, Calvin Pickard has 2 years of currency with the Edmonton Oilers where he's played very well. And his win-loss record in particular has been outstanding. And this year it just, hasn't necessarily gone his way. His last start against Minnesota, kind of a perfect example. He actually played fairly well, stopped 32 shots. But I thought in that game, both teams gave up a lot of chances. That was a fun game in Minnesota. A lot of scoring in the first period, and then the Wild kind of locked it down, and Calvin Pickard ended up getting the loss. But I think it's an important start for him in much the same way it is for some of that bottom six to sort themselves out, because Edmonton's going to get healthy at that position. And Tristan Jarry might be back in a week or two, and all of a sudden you've got a decision to make with Calvin Pickard versus Connor Ingram, who's played well in his 3 starts. So it is a case of competition at every position, Tony, and to illustrate your point, I think that's why you correctly term it an important start for Pickard.
All right, now he goes up against a Jet squad that you said has lost 5 straight, back-to-back overtime losses, only 2-6-3 in the month of December. This is a team, Jack, that won the President's Trophy last year. What's been the biggest difference between this version of the Jets and last year?
Well, they don't have any balance. Right now, their top line of Gabe Vilardi, Mark Scheifele, and Kyle Connor, who was drafted just a few picks ahead of Jack Roslovic. They actually got 2 first-rounders in that 2015 draft. That line has combined for 52 goals. That's the good news. They have more goals than the line of, for instance, Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Hyman. But after that, it's a steep drop-off. There is no second line anchored by a Leon Draisaitl type. It hasn't gone as well as they were hoping with respect to the acquisition of Jonathan Taves. He's kind of been moved out of that second-line center role. In addition, Adam Lowry is coming off significant off-season surgery. So he's only played 20-some-odd games, and he only has 1 goal. So their offense down the middle, I don't think has been what they were anticipating. Cole Perfetti, another guy who's been banged up through the course of his career, only has 2 goals. These are guys they were counting on offense from. When you look at, Perfetti, Taves, and to a lesser extent Adam Lowry, there hasn't been much juice, outside of the top line. So I think it's safe to say, Tony, the key for Edmonton tonight is mitigate the damage inflicted by the first line and let the balance of your lineup take over. And that's why I think you see Jack Roslovic in that 3-hole, hoping to trigger some offense in the bottom 6.
And they'll be hoping to put together a full 60 and look to get back in the win column following a 3-2 loss in Calgary on Saturday. We talked a lot about the 2015 draft. Of course, Oiler fans remember that one fondly as Captain Connor McDavid carries a 12-game point streak into tonight.
Did he go number 1 overall
I
that
think
year?
he did. Yeah, he's a pretty good player, isn't he?